mean, when you see a guy like Sammy, see, Sammy knew John was going to kill him. If that arrest doesn't come down, Sammy's done. Sammy was going. Tommy was going to become either the underboss or the consigliere. That's how close they got at that point. And to Sammy's luck, they all get arrested, and this is what happens. But otherwise, there'd be no Sammy Gravano. John was done with him. There were complaints coming in 7 days a week about Gravano. He robbed people. He abused people. He stole. He was the lowest form of life that existed. He was garbage. Garbage. That's what he is. He's pure garbage. Look what he did to his wife. Put her in a drug deal. Look what he did to his son. Put him in a drug deal. Garbage. Scum of the earth.
You touched on this a second ago, but John Gotti Jr. ends up getting married and has a huge, extravagant wedding. Can you talk about making that wedding for him and what all you did and kind of how that was at that time?
Sammy was pissed because Sammy wanted to walk into the wedding with John. But I said to John, let's do this wedding the right way, not the mob way. So I had Mrs. Victoria and all John's family walk in with John. And I had Sammy all the way in the back. And then when I got all the rooms in the hotel for Frankie, for Sammy, John was on the top floor with Frankie and John's whole family. And I put Sammy on the 6th floor. And Sammy was fucking furious. That fucking kid, that Jew bastard, he put me on the 6th floor. Yeah, Sammy was out of his mind.
Did he bring that to John?
Yeah, he brought that to John.
What did John have to say about it?
He didn't even, he didn't say anything. But the next day, John says to me, he says, you got this guy crazy. I says, yeah, I know. He didn't care. John didn't care. He knew Sammy was a piece of shit.
Why do you think John became so close with him and brought him along to such a high level within the family if he had all these negative qualities? At
that point in time, he thought he needed Sammy. He thought Sammy would have been okay from Staten Island and from Brooklyn. It would have been a good way to make everybody get along. But you see, what everybody failed to realize is that everybody hated Sammy. Sammy's own guys hated him. But that came out after. Mm-hmm. That came out after the fact. And after people were coming forward and telling me and telling John and telling Joe Butch, people, the captains that were close to John, that this is a bad guy. And then it all started to come together. I mean, Sammy admitted to 19 people. He killed 19 people. I guarantee you, now I don't know this to be a fact, but I guarantee you there's 20, 30 more people that Sammy killed. Every partner, John used to say it right to his face in front of me. Sammy, why is it that everybody's partners with you, they wind up dead? Because he would suck the blood out of you.
Right.
He was just an evil, sick, demented guy. I mean, that's not to say that, don't misunderstand me. John was a bad guy. John was a tough guy. But if you were in business with John, you were in business with him. He didn't look to edge you. He didn't look to take more. I was in business with John. Whatever we did at the end of the month, he didn't say, I want $2 more.
Yeah.
Sammy, you couldn't be in business with Sammy. Sammy would take the blood. He would suck you dry. Sammy was just an animal. He's just a bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was curious as to why John would bring him along and elevate him, because it seems like there's a big difference in their approach to business.
Correct. At that point in time. But once John had other people in the loop to help him with the businesses, the legitimate businesses and other businesses, and he saw what other families were saying about Sammy, and he saw what other people within the Gambino family were saying about Sammy. He knew that was a mistake. John Gotti's biggest mistake was Gravano. And John Jr. will attest to that as well.
Yeah, I've heard him say that before.
Yeah. If you have a choice between knowing Sammy or getting cancer, go with the cancer.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, December of 1990, John Gotti, Sammy the Bull, and Frank Locascio were arrested and eventually convicted on several charges. What led to that was these bugs that were in the Ravenite. I've heard you mention before that you suspect that Sammy tipped them off and kind of contributed to these bugs being placed there. Uh,
Well, keep in mind, Tommy Gambino was also part of that indictment.
yeah.
And Tommy went to John for permission to get severed from that case, and John wanted him severed. He didn't want Tommy, didn't really belong in that case. They just put Tommy in that case because, see, they knew at that point in time how John was feeling about Sammy. See, the government knew. Now, I don't know this to be a fact, but I believe Sammy had relationships with the government well before that arrest. Only my opinion. I don't know that to be a fact, but it's my opinion.
What do you base that on? I mean, do you
Well,
just
let me
suspect it?
ask you this: who knew, besides a very select bunch, that John was going upstairs to the Cirilli apartment? Who knew that John was having conversations in the hallway? Now, the conversations in the hallway took place before the bug was placed in the Cirilli apartment, but someone had to tell the FBI this. So I question who knew where these conversations were taking place. Only a select few. And then by the time me and others told John, his son as well, you got to stop having these conversations. But remember, the last conversation that took place was John telling Frankie, what are we going to do with this Gravano? This has to stop. Did you listen to those tapes?
I have before, yeah.
So do you hear, this is the boss telling his consigliere, or I don't know what Frankie was. Every day he had a new title.
Hmm.
What's going on here? What are we doing here, Frankie? Now, if this conversation doesn't take place, I'm not saying there wouldn't, of course, there was going to be an arrest. I mean, you had 200 agents on John. There had to be an arrest, even if they lied. John would always talk in the third party. If you listen to Mikey DeLeonardo, you hear how John used to talk. If he was mad at you, he would tell me, or he would say, Lewis, I don't get this. I don't understand how people are. Really, he's trying to tell you that he's mad at you. But John would always talk in the third party. And that's what he was doing with Frankie Lowe. Anybody that knows John, that heard those tapes, will agree with me 100%. And Mikey DeLeonardo knows John, how John would talk in the third party. Had Frankie Locascio been, Frankie was a great guy and loyal to John, but he wasn't strong. When you're in that position, you need somebody strong. Sammy needed to be controlled. And Sammy was drunk with power. So that's how that went. That's what that conversation was about. And, if you listen to that conversation and you listen to what I'm telling you, you know what I'm telling you.
Right. Do you feel that John would have eventually taken Sammy out?
100%. If that arrest doesn't come down, Sammy's gone.